So we're getting 10 new talents in the next update, pretty decent sized Paladins patch, at least balance wise, because apparently this isn't even everything that's going to be in the character change section, but thought I'd give you a sort of overview and my thoughts on these talents, even though the numbers might not be final, they might change a decent amount, because there's some really interesting stuff in here that is definitely worth talking about for the future of some of these characters. Persistence for Azaan will just start off after you take 2.5k damage, cleanse all CC, which is a bit weird, and heal for 800. Replacing just the standard lifesteal that he's had forever. This is one I think they said already they were going to change, but it doesn't seem like a positive change in my opinion, even though it would probably be stronger, and it just, you know, seemed decently fun. Probably not to go against, it probably be really annoying to play against, but overall just doesn't really seem like the sort of talent people will be picking because it's fun, people will be picking it because it's a meta, and I don't really like stuff like that. Usually you kind of want it to be both. Next up we've got Caspian. The word I would use to describe this is 100% devious. A bit weird, but yeah, it's got some heft. Enemies hit from behind by level wall with Caspian take 75 damage and lose 2% of the ult charge. The extra damage from behind I think is a good idea. The ult charge I don't love, even though I like the idea of being able to maybe remove ult charge on like a character. This to me just doesn't really fit out the right thing though. I feel like it should be more dedicated to the character, not just specifically like Caspian's right click for removing ultimates. Maybe that's just a me thing, maybe people are kind of alright with it being a specific thing of an ability, but I feel like it should be like a really heavy ult removal, like 25-50% with like an ultimate from a character or some combo or something, or just specifically a thing a character is known for, so you're sort of aware of the fact that you should clear them so you don't get your ultimate removed. But it just being kind of added on to a part of somebody's kit through a talent I don't really love, but not a bad idea. I kind of like a possible route for this, but the way it is at the moment, I'm also not sold on. Two negative ones to start. Grover 1, I do like way more though. Wisps of Sylvanas. Blossoms passive aura now provides 10% movement speed and CC reduction on the duration specifically, so I like the idea of Grover being like an aura buffer. He kind of is an aura buffer already, but I like the idea of a talent specifically pushing him more into that direction where you're losing some of the other stuff like damage or CC or whatever, or healing, and you're specifically more focused on just general team buffs, which is kind of what this is. But the numbers on it, I'm also not 100% sure on. 10% feels like not worth going for. Next up, Kinessa. I do want to point out the names for all these sounds are really, really good. Crystalline Battery is my favorite in a minute. Your oppressor mines now target yourself and specifically supercharge your carbine mode, which is your assault rifle mode. Firing while supercharged increases your fire and damage by 15%. So I don't know if this stacks, I don't know exactly how this would work, but I do like the idea for this, kind of the opposite of what it was doing before, and again, I do like it. I'm not sure about the numbers on it, and I haven't had a chance to play it, but it does seem like an interesting thing that would be nice to see on Kinessa, so you can play a little bit differently than the way you see it most of the time. Next up, Koga, another one that I think I will really, really like, again, at least in the concept for it and the direction for it. Adrenaline Junkie is going into his base kit. I want to point that out first. They say here, spoilers, but Adrenaline Junkie into the base kit. I've been wanting that for ages just to free up that slot and to make Koga just feel generally way better. A great change honestly just for that, but the talent that's replacing it is also really, really interesting. Bullet time, supercharge your reflexes after using your shadow step, so just a buff after you right click, increases your reload speed, your movement speed, and specifically your fire rate for 30% for 4 seconds. I don't know about the numbers and the feel for this again, but really do like the idea for it being able to use your right click to buff yourself out and use it a little bit more aggressively, trading off the charges for like extra damage and buffs and stuff. The only time it's really used aggressively normally is when you're going for like an ultimate or something, which is kind of predictable, and it does seem like it would be good fun and interesting. Again, Adrenaline Junkie into the base kit. Next up, Lillith, Cursed Accord, taking some inspiration here from Ray. Blood Hex allies ignore damage resistance up to 10%. I think it's the only thing we've got in the game that works like this. Ray's everything is kind of similar, but maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Generate 25% also extra ult gen, heal 25% extra blood health when they get in a limb. Does push Lillith even more into the sort of aggressive support direction that they're trying to put her in, which I feel like all three other talents will now fit into, and this was kind of the healer one before, and that's now being changed to be more aggressive. Could totally understand if people miss more support focus Lillith, but I think she does fit into this sort of category uniquely. Hers, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I worded that correctly, but hopefully you get what I mean. Then we have Octavia, Paratrooper, which was Hell High Water before. They said something about putting it into a base kit, but just generally fun changes for her, which I'm happy to see because I feel like she definitely needed it. But Paratrooper will now allow you to hover for longer and also get extra damage in your commander's leap. I kind of like the idea of possibly Octavia being like a jump in the air, burst people type of character. 10% isn't crazy, but maybe if they change some other stuff around and, you know, the numbers or whatever, this could be a really cool playstyle for her. Even if it is annoying to go against, I think she could definitely benefit from something like this. I'm hoping they tweak enough stuff that we'll start to see flying burst Octavia. I don't know if it'll happen, but I can sort of picture it, and I think it would be good fun, even if they end up changing it again sort of later to balance it a bit more. Next up, 7. Talking about balancing, this one's always been a little bit weird. Execute Article 7. It will target the closest enemy after 0.8, 1000 damage, 20 radius, and anybody below 25% will be executed. This just kind of makes it a bit of a weird version of a Lex Ultimate. I just don't really see 7 Ultimate being a thing that people actually build around, considering how good it is just by default. The idea of an execute could kind of work, just generally I think they're better off giving him something other than an ultimate talent. They've tried it so many times, it never seems to really work. I think maybe once it did when it was way too strong, but changing it to something like this doesn't even really feel like you're necessarily buffing it or changing something enough for it to be worth grabbing over the other stuff, which are pretty solid, even though they've also nerfed those and moved them around a ton. But maybe it'll happen, maybe it'll work out, I just don't really see it. And finally, Vora, who's actually got the biggest change actually out of this entire list. She's got 2 in 1, and they're not really for me. I'm going to just preemptively say that because I don't hate these. I think they're actually kind of fine and somewhat interesting. They're just not really my sort of talent. I'll unzoom it here a bit for you. To summarize it for you, Relentless Presence into base gear, new Relentless Presence talent, and new Obliteration talent. Targeting allies does seem kind of interesting. I know people like it quite a bit, specifically with Vatu, who I see it used with a ton, like Grover. I think maybe someone else I'm forgetting right now, but for me, I never really utilize it, never really enjoy it that much. It just doesn't really fit the way that I play, which I guess says something about how much I play with my team, but yeah, I just don't really expect these to really be my sort of thing. Maybe after I play them, they'll grow on me a bit. Maybe the Obliteration one could be fun in some matches, like just super focused around using the right click a ton. 2 seconds off the cooldown, 50% after you get another limb. I do like that part, is really cool. Max stacks also applies as slow, I think, on top of the damage which it will still have, but 20% isn't that crazy. It will help in some scenarios. It is nice to have, but the main thing you're grabbing this for is, I think, going to be the 2-second cooldown and the reset on it. So I do like Eclipsed Affection. Again, the names for some of these talents are really, really good. Parasitic Pull, whoever's doing these, good job. Also seems like it would be pretty decent, just not as much for me as the other one. And yeah, that's all of them. I think that's all 10 of the talents. It took me a minute here to go through them. My favorite is definitely the Koga change. Might not be the most meta because people do love the claws at the moment, but yeah, the fire rate, reload speed, movement speed combo for 4 seconds, 30% is pretty crazy. Would have to see it in a game and stuff. I think that applies to a lot of these, but that is where I'm gonna leave it though. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your favorite or least favorite talent out of these 10 down in the comments, or any changes that you think they should do. I'll be reading through them. I'll of course see you guys all yeah, very, very soon. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. And as always, stay frosty.